Good morning students and a very hearty welcome to GC Tech Hub CS tutorials. In today's lecture we are going to discuss the sample question paper. In our previous lecture we had stopped at discussing the sample questions, few sample questions till the second case study question. Today we will just continue from there. So let's move on to today's class. So as we have to start discussing section 1, 2 marks questions. So you can see that there are 2 marks questions in section 1. These were the 1 mark question. Then we started with section 2 and these were the case study questions which were 4 mark each. Then we came to part B. So we are going to start with part B section 1 which consists of 2 marks questions. And here in part B, because it's a part B is descriptive paper and in section 1 you have internal options. So all questions in section 1 that is in part B are compulsory but they will be having some internal choices. So we have the first question here. You can see evaluate the following expressions. So as you can see we have these questions copied over here. Now this is a very simple example. These two are 1 mark each. So and this is simply from review of Python and that is operators and expressions where we have to work with the evaluation of expressions. And we have to also keep in mind the operator precedence. So we start with the first one, A part, that is 6 into 3 plus 4 minus 8. So here you can see that we already have this expression and in this expression we have the operator which is at the highest level of precedence, that is raised to the power or exponentiation. So this will be first calculated, that is 4 square which will be 16, and so our expression will now be plus 16 floor division 5 minus 8. Now we have 4 different operators: multiplication, addition, floor division and subtraction, out of which multiplication and floor division, these are the ones which have to be executed first. And in this also, according to left to right associativity, this is going to be the order. So we will be writing here and next will be 16 floor division 5. So if I divide 16 by 5, it will be 5 3s are 15. Because here both the values are integers, so the result will also be an integer. Now you can see that we have 18 plus 3 minus 8, where we have two operators at the same level of precedence. So here we will follow the left to right associativity and first solve 18 plus 3, which will be 21, minus 8, which will be 30. So this is the answer for the first one. Now for the second one, you can see that this expression doesn't contain any arithmetic operators, rather comparison operators and logical operators. So in this expression also, firstly we have to we know that comparison operators have more precedence over logical operators. So first of all, comparison operators will be worked upon. So we are going to have it this way. Then first 10 greater than 5, which is true, and 7 greater than 12, which is also true. Sorry, I did it wrongly. It is false. 7 is not greater than 12. So this is false, and 18 greater than 3 is true. Now in this we have three logical operators, and, or, and not. So in this the first preference goes to not, second is and third is or. So we will first solve this part. So true and false, or not true, which will be false. Now out of these two, that is true and false, which will be giving us false, and false or false, which will be giving us false only. So the answer, final answer is false. So the answer for this one is 13 and for this one is false. So both are of 1 mark each. Next question is differentiate between viruses and worms in context of networking and data communication threats. So we have to differentiate between virus and worms. Now viruses are of different types and they cause potential harm to our computer by deleting certain important files or corrupting data files, removing content of data files, starting abnormal activities on our computers. Whereas worms are potentially harmless, all they do is they just keep on replicating themselves. Worms are also pieces of code which replicate themselves automatically, and they just fill up the space on your hard disk as well as memory, but they do not delete anything or corrupt any file or corrupt any data, but they can easily exhaust the space on your computer, on the hard disk, on your memory, in the memory of the computer, as well as they can also take up a lot of bandwidth space. Differentiate between web server and web browser. Write any two popular web browsers. So differentiate. Now what is a web server? A web server is a server which stores all the website content in the form of collection of web pages, and web browser is the client application which we use on our computer in order to access the web pages. So two popular web browsers, we have many popular web browsers, so you can write any two out of them, like Microsoft Internet Explorer, and we have our latest one, that is Microsoft Edge. MSIE, that is Microsoft Internet Explorer. MSIE. Microsoft Edge is a new browser, and you can just see its icon over here. Then you have Google Chrome, Opera, Opera GX, Mozilla Firefox, UC browser. Likewise, many different browsers are there, so you can write any two names. So it's a very easy question, and if you have we have already studied these types of questions in class 10, so it should not be a problem for you to answer these. So here you can say that because it is 1 point, there are two questions in this part, in this question. 2 points, 2 parts in this question, so each part carries 1 mark each. And here also in differentiation, if nothing is provided but marks are 2, that means you have to provide 2 points of difference between virus and worms. Expanding the following terms. So next question is expanding the following terms. The first one is SMTP. It stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Second is XML, which stands for Extended Markup Language. Next is LAN, Local Area Network. Then we have IPR, which stands for Intellectual Property Rights. So we have these four things, SMTP. So here all you have to do is just write the full forms of these abbreviations. Each one carries half mark each, because you can see the mark, it is total 2 marks and 4 abbreviations are there, so each of them carries half mark. So these are scoring questions. You can score a lot of marks in these questions if you are able to answer them, and these are quite basic questions as you can see from here. Differentiate between actual parameters and formal parameters with a suitable example for each. So what are actual parameters? Now I'm going to write a sample program here in Python to just explain to you the difference between actual and formal parameters. So here we are going to write a simple program. Define a function to calculate and return factorial of a number. So we'll start with def fact, and it takes up one argument, and f equals 1 and f multiplied equal to I, and return f. And this is my global area. So here I'll be asking for the number from the user, and we'll be printing the factorial. Suppose I take factorial as a variable and I call this function and pass number to this, and I print it. Factorial of num is factorial, and I'm going to run the program. So it prints the value. Now let me explain the various parts. So here you can see that here this is the main area, and this main area accepts data from the user, that is in the form of num, and here we have a function call, and over here we have the function which has been created. It is a user defined function, and it also accepts an argument. So here when we are defining the function, and within this we are providing the name of the function along with the list of arguments, so this is known as formal parameter, which is provided at the time of function definition. So when you are defining the function using the def keyword and you are providing a list of these parameters here within these parentheses, these are termed as formal parameters. And when you are calling the function and passing arguments to it, that is, we asked for the value from the user and we are passing it, this is the actual parameter or actual argument. So this is the difference between actual argument, actual parameter and formal parameters. And so you have to first explain the difference, and then you have to provide an example. So you have 1 mark for explaining the difference and one mark for providing an example, and the example should always be in the form of a sample program consisting of proper stubs, and here you can and you have to label the areas in this way to explain the difference. In the options of it has been given explain the use of global keyword used in a function with the help of a suitable example. So how do we use a global keyword? I have written a sample code here, as you can see, which consists of a function that is change and which consists of some statements written within the global namespace. The global namespace contains x equals 10. So how will it work in the memory? So let us do this over here. Now we have this small function here, change, and we have the main area which is allocating 10 to x. So we have a global environment here. This is the global environment, and within this global environment x is created which contains 10. Now we print global x, so we will get the output as global x equals 10. Now there is a function call to the function change, and you can see within this we have a statement x equals x plus 6. So firstly Python is going to look for this x within the local region, the local namespace which is the namespace of change, and it doesn't find x over there. So now what is going to happen is it is going to, so if I run this program, it gives us an error that is local variable x referenced before assignment, because we have if we simply print the value, try to print the value, in this there the error is caused because now the change namespace of the function change would be over here, and here we don't have this variable x. The x is not created over here, it is recognized within the global area, right? So now what will happen here, it's going to give us an error. So in order to not receive an error, what we can do is either pass this variable, pass the value. So passing the value would be somewhat like this, that is we take x over here. So when we take x there, when x is passed as an argument, so here x would be created within the local scope containing the value 10, and then when we execute the statement, it will be now pointing to 10 plus 6, that is 16, and this previous association will be broken. So this is what we have, and then print x. So now we are printing x from within the function change, so it will be x equals 16, and then we come back over here after this to this statement global x, and global x is still 10. So let's do it and see. Okay, so here the thing is one argument is required. We pass x. So you can see that global x is 10. Then the value of x which is printed before over here. Once also we are printing the value of x from within the function change, that is also 10, and then we change the value using this statement. We add 6 to the value, so this value is printed x equals 16, and then the program control comes back to this statement within the global space, and hence within the global space the value is 10. Why? Because we have passed an integer to the function, and we know that integers are immutable. Hence, they are created every time. Okay, so they are always like when an integer is created or where a variable is reassigned a value, then it just points to some other location in the memory. So here also it is pointing to some other location in the memory. These, and once this change function executes completely, then this total area, this total scope will disappear. That is, now the scope is completed, or that life timeline of the lifespan of change function goes off, and we are left with the only value of x, that is 10. So now we have to, if we want to make changes in the global value for 10, so how to do that? So we will remove the argument x from here, and we are going to write here. If I run it right now, it's going to give me local variable reference before assignment. So it is because we don't have, in this case, we don't have any variable created within the local area, local namespace. There is no variable named x. So in our code, we have to specifically write global x. So when we write global x, it is going to now recognize this x as a specific value. So now this x will be recognized within change. And because it is recognized within change, so when I run the program, you will find that initially its value was 10, but after the function is also executed, the value of x changes to 16. How this happens, let's see. So I'm going to copy this code. Now in this code, firstly we have the global scope, and we have the scope for the function change. So here we are creating x, which is pointing to 10. Then we are printing global x. So global x right now is 10. Then there's a function called to change, and here specifically this program is going to recognize the global x. So this x is now visible within change. We will write print x. So x equals the value, the original value, that is 10. Then we have x equals x plus 6. So now the value of x will become 16, and this previous value, the previous association will be broken, and now this 16 is also recognized within change. So here when we print the value of x, so this value will be the changed value 16. Then after this last statement of the function change has finished its execution, the control will come back to the print statement. So now this change, it disappears from the context. So we no more, because its lifetime is over once it has completed its execution. So now the thing is, we don't need any recognition of it. I'm going to remove this arrow also, and now you can see that the global variable x is also printed like this. Global x equals 16. So this is the use of the global keyword in a program. So you can explain the meaning of the global keyword. The global keyword actually allows us to access the global variables, specifically immutable variables, which are otherwise not accessible within the local namespace. And if it suppose within the local namespace also we have a variable with the same name, and we want to forcefully only access the global variable with the same name, so we can still use the global keyword over there. So next is rewrite the following code in Python after removing all syntax errors. Underline each correction done in the code. So this is again another thing. So we'll just discuss it. We have to just find out what are the errors, and most usually these are syntactical errors in the program. So we are going to just see them. So, and it has been specifically mentioned that these are syntactical errors. So we are going to concentrate on that. And we also have to underline each correction. That means what you have to do is you have to write the corrected code in the exam. And the corrected code will be written. So suppose I write the corrected code. For the first statement, it is correct, value equals 30. Second statement, for val in range 0 comma value. So what is missing? The colon is missing. So we have to write the colon. So what you need to do is in the exam, you have to rewrite the code. And you have to put, now technically speaking, this we could have also written as simple value instead of providing the starting value. Okay, but anyways it's not wrong, so we have remember that you should not change anything over here, only correct the mistakes. Next is if I is capital, so I have to provide it like this: if val, rest is correct, print. Now here one more thing is the caps, the case of val. Here it is capital val and here it is small. So you can even, we need to make this correction also. This will be val. Then print val into 4. This is absolutely correct. Then else if is not a valid keyword. Instead elif is used, and here again the value of this case of val is the error, and print it is correct, print val plus 3, else print val plus 10. So these are the, this is the corrected code, and when you have to also underline the correction, so you will be doing it in this way. That is, you can either underline or you can encircle it also, this one. Then we have this one, and else also you need to put this colon. So how many total errors are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 errors are there. So you have to make sure, don't worry about the marks, all you have to make sure is to point out as many syntactical errors as you find in the code. Okay, and marks will be adjusted, and usually it is provided in this way that if somebody has provided all the corrections, give full marks. One correction has been missed out, maybe half mark or 1/4 mark will be deducted. So this way you should not worry about the number of errors. Instead you should point out all the errors which are there in the code.